How we doing tonight? Oh, doing alright, Shima. How are you? I don't know if you can make two of the same raccoon. You can, if you do it exactly the same way both times. Thank you for the hydrate. And shouldn't be too busy audio-wise. Can we get a shout out for Shumai as well?
Oh yes, it's the Eye of Tigger.
Off we go.
This was like 2 nights ago.
The Eye of the Storm. It's the Eye of Tigger. Does that make Tigger an Animo? Like, if he was in Genshin, he would be like Animo. Or, I'm trying to think. I mean, Animo, you can like jump around and do all that.
Adventure time.
Well, I think because there had to be
Alright.
a code for like how the characters
The
respond.
emo clip hasn't come up yet, and I'm so sad.
No.
Oh, the an emo. That was so. I was inspired. It's only been the Tigger clip so far, huh? It's weird. Oh boy. So. I figured out a better way to play the game, especially because I keep doing the blue badger dance. Gives me a little more freedom of how to sit. Nightbot like Animo Tigger, I guess. I forgot to turn on my light, and it's fairly bright behind me. Let me go take care of that. Darkness. Okay, so what are we doing tonight? We are playing Phoenix Wright. That's right. And destroying my voice in the process. It is what it is. White. Pyro? I haven't changed it yet. I'm just figuring things out. I need to power up the switch. We should start hearing sound. There's a little bit of a click there. It's a lot louder than I remember it being. There we go. And there we go. Din 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 din. So, where were we? We were getting a new testimony by Marshall. Oh, he was trying to He was trying to get into murder victims' evidence locker. That's right. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. And managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So, the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. Sir, why do you have a knife? No weapons in the courtroom. Well, we allowed that kid to have his sword in the courtroom, so I guess we have to allow a knife, right? If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. There's way too much blood for such a small donation. You can cut your short beard later. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? Yes, online incident. 2 years ago, 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I... Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out the lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So, essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me, and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out, and I managed to escape. I knew which areas that wouldn't be caught on the camera. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I don't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing at that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. What's the point of having footage for only 6 hours? It's erased every 6 hours so that they can have more storage. But they preserve any footage that has anything out of the ordinary happen on it. For example, Meekins attacking Goodman when Goodman was supposedly dead. So what you're saying is, on that day... Getting a little bit of an accent in there, I'm sorry. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What, are you blind? The victim on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker? Actually... No, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. and I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserves his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I better take another look at the files. Yes, I did. Sorry. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. Yeah, that's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Dan McGann, the deputy chief of police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane accusations? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could ever be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, a fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So, if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which, in turn, means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Scott. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. It seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Sky, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case. Objection! It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was a fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant. Your Honor, wait! Emma. The defense has an objection, a scientific objection, right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Oh, in this case, please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please, hear me out. Miss Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. Oh, Edgeworth. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky's sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the trace of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But, Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Please, Mr. Wright. You're a professional. If anyone can save Fauna, it's you. Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, the handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If ever I needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with the handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing I see that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is very strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Could be grasping at something else, but no, desperation instead. Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use. The question is, which item can prove something is missing from the floor plans? What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at the spot on the locker. What? So that means, just what exactly does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Marshall has some incredibly tight pants you just realized / noticed. Yeah. Mr. Wright, I think it through scientifically. Emma. On that afternoon... Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in? Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in the evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on this locker proves this. Very well, then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows us when the murder took place. Only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim and carry his body away. Then clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 777 7777. Seven sevens. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7 sevens. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 777777777. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least, at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank higher of captain, with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 777. 7777. 7777777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing. About that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, we occasionally felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana! I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the only ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what do you say? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look at me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. What? Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. See, that's what I'm talking about. No. No. Order. The whole courtroom was thrown into chaos. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. I didn't know. I never knew that the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dart killings. Sounds like everyone heard about these killings but me. Lana wanted Dart convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean, what happened to you? It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. Well, what did you have to do with those killings, Emma? On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother Neil was only trying to save me. So that means you... Yes. I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial. I didn't see that one coming. You read the file, dude! What is Joe Dark's type, anyway? It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finished her work. Then suddenly this terrifying man came bursting into the office. Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Jake Marshall's brother. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage, but before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then... What happened? I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out, suddenly. A bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I can still see it now. A permanent picture? I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall. So you weren't able to testify about that? No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why she made up the crime. Made it up? You mean provided bogus evidence? The prosecutor's office wanted the guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, it's all my fault. If I could have just testified properly, none of this would have happened. So it's true, even though he may not have known it. Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold, like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. What did you see in the instant that that crime occurred? Dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma, you've been through so much. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that incident. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago, you must have been 14. That's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I want to be able to fight crime with my testimonies and find the evidence that makes an airtight case. That way, Lana would never have to forge any. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes him a tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said that you were in Lana's office at the time, right? That's right. Then why would the serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor? Oh, there's no mystery there. Jodak had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office. But why did he run all the way over to your sister's office? Because the detective offices and the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly. Didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. She was the best in the entire force. What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Lana used to be a detective? I better have a talk with her. Lana! Or was that Lana? I don't know. Fuck it. Who cares? Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence? I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul. Why should we? But, Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you were a detective 2 years ago, and how the SL9 incident was a reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office. That's right. Could you fill me in on the details, especially about that unusual change of jobs? Ow. I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I expected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be. That trial, it really wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed in that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth. It couldn't be helped, Emma. That trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15, there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, Lana. What the witness Miss Starr said. How about you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife? Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so fazed before. It's true. I was a member of the police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about all the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together. Chief Gant? He was the deputy chief of police back then, but he still worked the crime scenes. Damon Gant. He was everything I aspired to be. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before reports could be filed. Emma really does idolize her big sister. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes so you could use that experience in court, right? Gant's help in the SL9 case was crucial to its resolution. After that, he became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about the investigation of theirs 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was in command of the detectives investigating Dark. Second in command? That means the investigation lead was Damon Gant, right? Yes. Deputy Chief Gant and I shared the same office. And the same investigations. They even had the same office. We led a team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was, Jake Marshall, and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall had worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come in for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. It was when his final murder took place. When he tried to murder Emma. Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark? You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. Damon Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day. The investigation was in its final stages, and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall let their guards down, then fled the room. From there, he ran straight to the office shared by Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So, you were the first person to run to the scene, Lana? It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood. 3 bodies? Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who had passed out, and the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious. What did you do? To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and just held her. Can't blame her after all her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Joe Dark under immediate arrest. Let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident? That's right. Quite a coincidence, I don't buy it. What are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident. Just by chance. But that case was solved 2 years ago. At least one person went to extremes because they didn't believe it was truly solved. Officer Marshall, yes. His actions came as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he's changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. I mean, would you be? Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case might not be over yet. Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Demon Gant and I shared. The office that Gant now occupies by himself, the chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the chief's office, the site of the final SL9 murder. No one's here today, not even Miss Starr. Everyone's probably busy looking into what exactly went down in the evidence room. That must be where the detectives are. But we proved in court today that on the day of the crime, no one was murdered in the evidence room at 5:15 p.m. Yeah, I thought we were finally making some headway in our case. But instead, it looks like we just ended up making Lana look even more guilty. Hang in there, Lana. I've got to find all the answers by tomorrow. Howdy, Bambina. Oh, it's Mr. Marshall. I never thought things would turn out this way when I woke up this morning. Que sera, sera. You never know where life will lead you, eh, Bambina? I should have known my luck had run out when old Billy dried up this morning. Billy? Must be his pet cactus. Say, where are you headed? Just over to the prosecutor's office for a little interrogation. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but you can't go in the evidence room today, partner. But, Mr. Marshall, why did you do it? Why do prospectors head west? If ever there was a case I needed to know the truth about, it was that one. Before you turn yourself in, Mr. Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. Something was fishy about that trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean, fishy? Some of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. A murder weapon? You mean the switchblade knife with the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's, alright. But in the initial autopsy report, a question was raised. A question? The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the wound the victim sustained. What does that mean? It means there's a good chance the knife was not the murder weapon. However, in the report that was finally submitted, that possibility had been erased. The facts have been concealed with forged evidence? That case left behind scars on all of us. The scars that the SL9 incident left behind? I got the looks, but he got the brains. He was one of the best prosecutors around. I had just made detective when it went down. It was our first case together.
How old was he, your brother?
He was 27 at the time. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the King of Prosecutors? I knew it. What are you looking at me like that for? It's an honor for a prosecutor.
Mr. Marshall must have been really close with his brother. The day the SL9 incident took place, that wasn't the same day as...
That's right. That's the day of the evidence transferal. Or it was the day of the evidence transferal.
Interesting.
It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. I can't believe 2 years have gone by already. I tried to steal the evidence so the case wouldn't die.
Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered, and the evidence locker was empty.
There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in that investigation, save one, was taken care of. Miss Starr was fired, and I was demoted and boxed away in a tiny room.
What about Detective Goodman?
If they did something to him too, the commissioners would get suspicious. No, they were careful enough not to be too obvious.
They? Who are you talking about?
Don't get upset, Bambina. I mean Damon Gant and Lana Skye. The investigation lead, Damon Gant, and his second-in-command, Lana Skye. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both of their careers. After the case ended, Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yeah. Damon Gant and the new chief of police arranged for that to happen. She's never been the same since she left. Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Skye was totally different when she was a detective.
Now that he mentions it, Emma said something like that too. Tell me, what happened to my sister?
Sorry, Bambina, but her secret is too well guarded. I never found out.
Lana's secret. It all started 2 years ago.
So there you have it. That's my story. Did you enjoy it, partner?
It was certainly enlightening.
There's one thing for sure I found out in court today. That boy Edgeworth isn't my enemy. He was the one who used falsified evidence to get a guilty verdict. But someone else was the one who gave him that evidence and planned everything. That someone is Damon Gant. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. I won't even be a patrolman after today. Too bad I won't be around to work with you when you become a real scientific investigator. Adios, Bambina.
Well, that got real heavy. The Blue Badger is still writhing around today. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he's dancing. Speaking of dancing, the whole police department has been dancing around like crazy since the other day.
place is pretty empty, but is always pretty empty, but today it's deserted.
That must mean everyone's busy solving crimes.
Oh, if you're looking for the others, they're all in the conference room. Thanks. Wow, he actually talked to us. With the chief prosecutor saying what she did and the decision about what to do about Mr. Edgeworth, not to mention our statement to the media and tomorrow's trial, there's more chaos going on than Thanksgiving and Christmas put together. I think festive is the word usually used for those.
Sir, we'd like to have a look around Chief Gant's office.
Just use the connecting hallway to the other building and take the elevator up to the top floor.
Really? You mean it's okay for us to go in there? I mean, we aren't police officers or anything.
Hey, you're right. You can't go in there. It's off limits. Now I see where Detective Gumshoe gets his unique charm.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's head to the chief's office.
Bye, dude. February 24th, Police Department Chief's Office. Whoa! Where am I?
In the chief's office, silly. At least, that's what it said on the door.
Check out that pipe organ. That's real, isn't it?
Hey, I used to take organ lessons in kindergarten. They used to call me Little Miss Bach.
Thought I was a genius until they tried teaching me notes. Oh. Was that Emma saying something? Damn it.
I never could remember where C was.
Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading in his desk. So, Righto, have you been swimming lately? No, I haven't. I've been kind of busy lately. I can appreciate that. I've had my hands full too, with Mr. Marshall's misconduct. And Lana's provocative statement. Provocative statement. Oh, you mean about the forged evidence? Two years have passed since that incident. My, how time flies. See that big picture on the wall over there? That's a picture of Lana, Neil, and me. So this is Mr. Marshall's brother, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. We took it to commemorate our work together. Something's not right with this picture. I can't quite seem to get my finger on it, though. Gant team picture added to the court record. Anyway, I'd like to reminisce all day, but there are matters that need my attention. I'm going to lock up here, so let's go out together.
Oh, but this office, it was a crime scene 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That case has long since been over. There's no need to investigate it anymore. All the same, we'd still like to have a look around. Perhaps you didn't hear me. I said there's no need to investigate it anymore. Now hurry up and get out. I have a meeting to attend.
It looks like we aren't welcome.
Seems that case isn't over with yet, after all.
What do you mean?
Chief Gant denied our request to search the crime scene. That means there must be a reason he didn't want us looking around in there.
You mean like a clue?
There's got to be a way we can get inside the chief's office.
Mr. Edgeworth isn't here.
Maybe he's being questioned by an inquiry committee? He took a real beating in court today.
Yeah, with Lana admitting to falsifying evidence 2 years ago.
I guess we'll just have to come back later. Back in elementary school, he won awards for all kinds of things. Speech contests, essays, playing the flute, golf.
That doesn't exactly sound like typical elementary school stuff.
But he always hated receiving awards. He'd make some smart remark like,
I know the path I've walked. No one else needs to tell me.
That's how he's always been.
Kind of gets under your skin, doesn't it?
Sorry, I skipped so much of that. They were saying, or Phoenix was commenting on the fact that you think he'd want to display it more. Just like he's displaying that Steel Samurai, but no, that's not how he is. Hey, pal. Detective Gumshoe. Aren't you supposed to be in a meeting? I'm, just taking a breather. My feet hurt.
From sitting so long?
Actually, from serving everyone coffee. Sounds like Detective Gumshoe's still out of the loop. Say, have either of you seen Mr. Edgeworth? Edgeworth? No. Why do you ask? He's under fire from both the police department and the prosecutor's office. Almost sounds like the battle is between you two in court. It sounds serious.
Is it because of what my sister said?
That's basically what it all boils down to. That falsified evidence 2 years ago. Now Mr. Edgeworth has the whole world after his blood.
Yikes.
But why would Edgeworth be blamed? It's not like he knew the evidence was forged. Lana Skye is the guilty party here, isn't she? Regardless, the prosecutor is responsible for the evidence they present in court. Not only that, but as you know, there have been a lot of rumors about Mr. Edgeworth. His amazing talent as a prosecutor kept him safe from those who didn't like him. But now with this...
Are there really so many people who hate him?
In our world, only those with talent who rise to the top. Mr. Edgeworth was not only has that, but he's young. There's no better recipe for making enemies. Hey, Dick, keep up the good work. Yes, sir. Let's go out for lunch again sometime. My treat. Yes, sir. You gotta take me back to that joint sometime, okay, Dick? Yes, sir. Seems like you don't have any problems with enemies. Yeah, well, I'm careful not to stick out. Anyway, I'm a bit worried about him. Under all this pressure, I'm afraid Edgeworth just might crack. Actually, I took a look at the file earlier, while the coffee was brewing. He seems genuinely concerned for Edgeworth. Well, did you find anything? The only evidence Stark left behind was during his final attack. His final attack? You mean... when he killed Prosecutor Marshall, who was trying to protect some girl.
Me.
Seems Detective Gumshoe never realized Emma was the girl. That's when he left the most incriminating evidence of all.
Well, what was it?
Let's see. I think it had something to do with the murder weapon. Oh, I forget.
Look, it's all written in somewhere in here, okay? His powers of recollection never failed to impress. Maybe we should show him the murder weapon. That might jog his memory. Joe Dark was 42 at the time of the crime. He's just your run-of-the-mill businessman. A businessman? What made him take the serial killer? One day, on his way home, he hit someone with his car.
With his car? So, it was an accident?
An accident, yes, but it transformed him into an animal.
An animal?
He killed a man that witnessed the accident. Then he killed the lady who saw the second crime. The kid walked by just then, so he killed them too.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
A jogger came upon the scene and was killed well. Finally, he turned himself in.
Seems he was a pretty careless animal.
And of course, this is all conjecture. There wasn't a single shred of evidence.
So he turned himself in.
Yes, but in the middle of his questioning, he fled the murderer and his final victim. Prosecutor Marshall. That crime was witnessed by someone too, but luckily Dark was arrested on the spot. It's a good thing that last witness wasn't killed.
Last witness, aka Emma.
Hey, is that?
Has a tag attached to it with the label SL9 incident on it. I believe this would be the broken murder weapon you were speaking of.
What are you doing with that? Ever since that case was closed, that knife's been locked away in a locker.
On the day Detective Goodman was murdered, this suddenly disappeared from the locker. It was found in Mr. Edgeworth's car muffler.
That's it. Now remember what that incriminating piece of evidence was. When you showed me that knife, it all came back to me.
Well, what is it, Detective? Quick, before you forget again. This knife, it was Joe Dark's, wasn't it?
That's right. We traced it back to the store he bought it at. Plus, it had his fingerprints on it too.
But no one actually witnessed him using using it to murder anyone, right?
That's where his luck ran out. When you take a good look at the knife, you'll see it's broken.
You don't have to take a good look to notice that.
Yeah, well, anyway. Guess where the broken tip of the knife was found? That's what did him in.
Where was it?
The victim, Neil Marshall, was carrying it inside his own body. It was found deep inside the stab wound.
Did it match Dark's knife?
You bet. Down to the last fiber.
That's pretty conclusive.
Well, there you have it in a nutshell. That's all I know.
Can I ask you one more thing?
What is it? If it's money you need, you should ask Chief Gant.
It's not money, but it does concern the chief. His office is a crime scene, right? It's where Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered. The chief's out now and his office is locked. But we'd like to have a look around if that's okay.
Well, any detective's ID card can unlock the door.
What? Really?
But if I let a civilian in there, I'd be charged with breach of trust.
Breach of trust?
Simply put, I'd be canned.
Oh.
Sorry, pal. I don't plan on getting fired because of you.
How about this ID card? It was Detective Goodman's.
That won't work either. The data was deleted the day he died.
Oh. So in other words, Gumshoe is our only chance of getting into that office. I wonder if there's something we could show him that would change his mind. That's the ID card record, isn't it? Yes, there's only one number left to investigate at 4:20 p.m. The victim, Detective Goodman, must have entered the evidence room along with someone else. Someone with an executive officer number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's one too many sevens there, Gumshoe. That's 1 7 too many, Detective. Executive officer. I just might have a hunch. About that jar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. Or before somewhere. Somewhere? Or maybe it's one of those memories people have from previous lives. This must be the most uninformative detective I've ever met. Something about it makes me feel uneasy. It's like I'm in the chief's office and yet he's yelling at me. And he's yelling at me. Chief Gant? Where could I have seen that before? It's right there. It's right there. It's right there. It's right in that. It's right there. I can't even point it with the. Anyway. Wonder if Edgeworth is back yet. There he is. It looks like he's writing something. What are you doing here? He sure was quick to throw that paper on the floor. Tough day in court, huh? I've had to live the past 2 years with rumors flying around. What's another allegation to me? Cheer up, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm rooting for you. That's Edgeworth for you. Always trying to hide his real feelings. So, what did you want? Unlike some people, I don't have all day. I wonder what he was writing before. Come on, Mr. Wright. Let's take a look. Are you crazy? Edgeworth is sitting right there. Just distract him. I'll check it out. Hey, Edgeworth. You want to go to dinner? Is that Detective Gumshoe out the window there? Oh no, he's falling to the ground. Hold on. First, let me see what this girl's doing crawling around my feet. He didn't even look. What? Letter of... If If you're having trouble reading, I'll read it for you. It says, Letter of Resignation. Of course you chime in for that one, Salix. Yes, it cracked a joke about Phoenix asking Edgeworth out to dinner. Do your homework. Resignation? Edgeworth, you don't mean... I'm tired, right? I feel as if something inside me has died. But Mr. Edgeworth, none of it is your fault. I know the path I've walked. You don't need to tell me. And the path I've walked hasn't been a just one. I can't forgive myself for what I've done, and no one else should forgive me either. Uh-oh, I think he's serious. Mr. Wright, please, you have to do something. This letter of resignation, I wonder if I can use it for anything. Letter of resignation put into pocket. There's no excuse for what I've done. 2 years ago, I used false evidence to obtain a guilty verdict. That's what it all breaks down to, and nothing I can do can erase that fact. Feeling like life has no meaning and wanting to do something reckless, eh, Miles? Huh? But you didn't know, did you? I mean, that evidence was falsified. And the police department and the prosecutor's office share a bond of trust. If that bond is broken, we stand to lose everything. The police department's error is my error, my responsibility as a prosecutor in charge. The fact remains the same, no matter what excuses I might have. Mr. Edgeworth, I take pride in my work. So tell me why. Tell me why. Why has it all come to this? Even Edgeworth can't keep this kind of emotion bottled up. Are you up for the trial tomorrow? First last year's trial and now this one. It seems all you do is worry about me. To be honest, you're getting on my nerves. But Mr. Edgeworth, you can't just walk out on the trial. Tomorrow is the last day. It's too late to change prosecutors. I'll bet that's why my superiors are banking on. I never thought that case would come back to haunt me like this. What do you mean? The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. It's only half as long as most lists? That is odd. After Neil Marshall was murdered, I became prosecutor for the case. I may not have been part of the investigation, but I knew what I had to do. Use the evidence I was given to prove the suspect guilty. That was really the only thing on my mind at the time. Say, we just saw a picture taken around that time. That picture? Something seems strange about it. Could you tell us again about what happened that day? The day Detective Goodman was murdered? You were participating in a ceremony over at the station, right? I've never cared for ceremonies, but I had to attend that one. Because you were awarded this? Those receiving awards can't exactly skip out on the ceremony. I finished up at the office in the morning, then drove over to the police department. You finished up at the office? Who were you seeing other than me? Come on. Yes, just odds and ends, clerical stuff. I didn't plan on returning to the office that day. That is until I was asked to take something back. Edgeworth, you got some explaining to do. Take something back? This. Oh yeah, Chief Gans asked you to hold on to that, didn't he? Yes, it was a piece of evidence in a case that closed half a year ago. He asked me to bring it back to the prosecutor's office. That's the story we heard yesterday. So you came back here to the prosecutor's office because the chief asked you to? That's right. Okay. Come now, Wright, you can't seriously expect me to just sit down and chat with you about the case over a cup of tea? But this isn't related to the case, remember? You said so yourself. So I did. Chief Gant gave you this, gave this to you that day, didn't he? He asked you to bring it here from the police department. The chief is a very competent man, but sometimes he does things that don't make any sense. At least it's better than an incompetent man and doing things that don't make being incompetent and doing things that don't make sense. A certain detective comes to mind. This picture was hanging on the wall at the Chief Gant's office. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He had just started making a name for himself. Oh, that was Edgeworth speaking. My bad. Looks like this was taken when he received the King of Prosecutors trophy. Speaking of that, there's something that bothers me. Yes? The trophy that Mr. Marshall is holding. It's a little different than yours. Yes, well, yes, you're right. Ah, I remember now. Remember what? That was what the official prosecutor's trophy looked like until 2 years ago. There's a story behind its design. A story? Sounds interesting. Would you mind telling it to us? It's simple, really. Contradiction. That's what the award's based on. This award originates from an ancient Chinese tale. In Chinese, the word contradiction is written with 2 characters. The first means halberd, and the second means shield. Have you heard this story? Me? Oh, sure. Everyone knows that. Why don't you tell it, though, for Emma's sake? Very well. Smooth, Edgeworth. Or Phoenix. Smooth. Long ago, in the kingdom of Chu, there was an arms merchant. One day, he presented the king with 2 items. First was a halberd he claimed could slice through any shield or armor. Second was a shield he claimed could withstand any weapon. Wait a minute. Those claims contradict each other. Very perceptive. But then again, you've heard the story before, right? Anyway, as you've mentioned, the very descriptions of these items discredit them both. When the king pointed this out, the merchant was left speechless, and thus the Chinese word for contradiction was born. Oh, I see. So the chipped shield and the broken knife symbolize... Precisely. Precisely so. They symbolize the merchant's items. The ancient tale ends with the merchant at a loss for words. But it's in our nature to pursue matters to their conclusion. Even if it results in something as ugly as this. Wow. Thanks, Mr. Edgeworth. I learned something new today. That's pretty funny. Oh, that's funny. If that's so, then why were you only given a shield? You'll have to ask Chief Gent. 2 years ago, he had the halberd part of the award abolished. Chief Gent. King of Prosecutors Trophy updated in the court record. Excuse me? Yes, sir. Would either of you care for a quarter pound of roast beef? Miss Starr, I guess she's out of lunches. You certainly are the curious sort, aren't you? Kind of like the first person who sucked a cow's nipple to discover milk. Whoa. Still, I never thought you'd go digging up that case from 2 years ago. Everyone in this trial was involved in the SL9 incident. Not only that, but the murder occurred on the very day the evidence from that case was due for transfer. This can't all be attributed to mere coincidence. Aren't you forgetting something? You know that little scene I happened to witness? The instant Lana stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. No matter how much of the past you dig up, it won't change what I saw. Roast beef is meant to be savored when eaten. Miss Starr's hatred towards Lana. It all dates back to 2 years ago. Joe Dark. That's a name I'll not soon forget. We trailed him for half a year. Oh, the pressure. Still, I don't think I was ever more alive than I was then. Those days were steamier than a bowl of hot gravy. Poor old Jake Marshall, though, must have been going through hell. You mean because of his brother's death? They were close, those two. After Neil died, something took over Jake. He became obsessed. Seeing Jake like that made her all the more desperate. Her? Lana Skye. My sister? The best of the best were put on that SL9 case. Of course, they were led by that legendary duo. Lana and Chief Gent. That legendary pair was the reason we were able to keep up our investigation. That's why we were so shocked over how it turned out. You mean with the forging of the evidence? Don't get me wrong, Joe Dark got what he deserved. Still, it was obvious the evidence produced in court was being manipulated. Items our team never found would suddenly appear, while other items were kept secret. But you don't have proof that anything illegal was done. I'm proof enough of what happened. After that case, all of us save Goodman were relieved of our duties. Most without even so much as an explanation. When Lana Skye transferred to the prosecutor's office and became chief prosecutor, Lana always wanted to be a prosecutor. Nothing's quite as simple as it appears. Huh? Lana Skye was merely being used as a pawn. That's my take on the matter. She was being used. Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Gant led the investigation with Lana second in command. They were his best. They were the best. They solved all kinds of cases together, didn't they? Damon Gant's magnetism, in particular, was almost unreal. His magnetism? By that I mean his ability to attract evidence. He'd produced the most incredible evidence in the cases he handled. Incredible evidence? You mean... Oh yes, there were rumors about him even back then. No one dared confront
Alright, everyone not dead, sound off.
Notre Dame, how are you doing today? Thank you for the raid. Welcome in. Welcome in. So how was stream? What were you playing tonight? I actually don't remember seeing a calling live notification. That would be why. Tales of Zesty again? Nice. So how's that game going for you? You having fun with it? Ah! Still not used to having a mic on an arm in front of me, apparently. And let's see. There we go.
Excuse me? You just shot yourself?
Jelly Donut Woman is still around.
Persona? What?
I'll be honest, I don't remember much from the game, just because I couldn't stick with it. I take it she's talking about forged evidence. Back then, everyone looked up to Lana. All the detectives wanted to be like her. Really? Oh yes, myself included. I was a fool, really. She hated anything crooked and always watched out for the other detectives. That's why she was so concerned for Jake. Mr. Marshall. When Jake's brother was murdered, she felt as if she had lost her own brother. Rose is best girl in Zesty, hands down. Which one's Rose again? Let me look. I don't think I met this character. No, I have met this character. I don't remember her, though. If it wasn't for her, I don't think Jake would have ever recovered from his shock. That's what makes it all the more infuriating. Miss Starr. That's why I'll never be able to forgive her. Why did she have to turn so cold after that? Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office 2 years ago, didn't she? Yes, thanks to Chief Gant's powerful influences. Chief? That's right. Having solved SL9 case, his position as chief was secured. There was only one thing left for him to control, and then no one could stand in his way. The prosecutor's office. What? You mean that's why Lana was transferred? If he could control the chief prosecutor, he could control the prosecutor's office. That must have been his goal all along. But how could he control Lana? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. Ever since that case ended, she's never been the same. It's only logical to conclude there must have been a reason for her change. At last, I'm finally getting close to the bottom of this ugly mess. Thank you, Miss Starr. You listen to me, rookie. It takes more than just ingredients to create a fine cuisine. I hope you turn out to be a better chef than I've been.
Oh, you're back. You're still here? I gotta make 150 copies of those files. Brewing coffee, copying files. I'm turning into a regular DJ.
You're a DJ as well? If I'm not mistaken, I think he means desk jockey. Oh, that DJ.
I gotta admire your persistency, but my answer's still no.
He can make one pack of ramen come out different each night. Oh wait, that's Gumshoe, not Phoenix.
I'm not letting you into the chief's office, period. It'd be my neck on the line.
The office is the last crime scene in the Cell 9 incident. I have to take a look in there. There's gotta be something we can do to make the detective change his mind.
What do we have now? What's this crumpled up piece of paper? No way. Mr. Edgeworth can't be serious.
Is he ever not serious?
I can't believe they pushed him this far.
Mr. Edgeworth really feels responsible.
When I first met him, I thought he was cold as ice, too. But I know different now. He trusted us detectives to provide him with sound evidence. But we betrayed him.
Detective?
That's it. I made up my mind.
But
Here, take my ID card.
we can't do that if someone found out. They wouldn't let you off the hook for with another lost item report. So yes, 2 more days to raise money for the Trevor project, because that'll be the end of the month. And we are only $45 away from the $1,000 goal. Trevor Project supports the LGBTQ community with suicide prevention and outreach. So, I'd appreciate it if people consider throwing a little bit more at that. And if I hit 1,000 on that, I have to play Dark Souls 2. This game that we're playing now was the first reward. The Super Giant games that I've been playing were the second reward, and I still have to play at some point getting over it, because we're over 750, obviously. But yeah, that was the 3rd milestone. But anyway, look at me. It's no secret I'm already out of the loop. After all, I'm friends with Mr. Edgeworth. Depending on how this case turns out, I may already be as good as terminated. What?
So, at least let me do this, for Mr. Edgeworth's sake.
Alright, detective. Thank you. Here goes, Mr. Wright. Click. Beep. We're in.
Take the shot.
If anyone finds us now, Detective Gumshoe's a goner.
If that happens, I'm counting on you to bail me out.
Eek!
Gah! Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were a ghost.
I didn't even know you could slap a ghost.
Yeah, Detective Gumshoe. What are you doing sneaking up on us like that?
I wasn't sneaking. I was just worried something might go wrong. So, I came too.
If you're here, then what's the point of you giving us your ID card? Gumshoe's ID crushed and rendered unusable in pocket.
Hey, don't do that to my card.
Oopsie doodle.
I hardly ever get a chance to come in here. So, I figured I'd have a look around myself. Besides, we're all in this together now.
You really do want to get fired, don't you?
Not if we're lucky. Now come on, let's see what we can find out.
Edgeworth, rethink the requests. Phoenix grasps something else. Crushing a card like that is impressive. No. Salix, no. I've got a bad feeling about this. This was taken on that day 2 years ago. The day Joe Dark ran out of the questioning room and tried to kill Emma.
After receiving his award, Mr. Marshall took a picture here. Then went along with Chief Gant to question Dark. I bet he never knew he'd be dead just a few hours later.
Gee, you think? These shelves are mostly empty. Lana must have cleaned them out when she transferred over to the prosecutor's office. There's a small picture frame on the left shelf. Hey, this is when Lana and I went to that theme park.
Look at that giant window. Makes you want to crash through it and jump outside.
This is the 15th floor.
I know, I was just saying.
Saying what?
Ever since making Detective, I've always dreamed about doing something like that.
Note to self. Note to self. Detective Gumshoe has a lot of dreams. So long as he doesn't go crashing through that window when he gets fired. Don't say that. This was Lana's desk. It sure is tidy. Lana's always been a meticulous cleaner. There's not even any dust on it. Looks like someone's still keeping it clean. Does Lana ever come back here?
No? Chief Gant must still keep it clean in memory of their partnership. They were the stuff legends are made of.
Does he keep it in memory of her or in memory of the crime?
The Chief's organ sure is a sight to behold. Occasionally we hear him playing it from the Criminal Affairs Department.
That's on the 2nd floor. This is the 15th floor of an entirely different building.
When a detective screws up, the chief calls him up to his office and makes him listen to the organ for hours.
What's so bad about that? Music soothes the soul.
After that, the detective can't hear anything for days except the ringing in their ears.
So it's an instrument of punishment, literally. But aren't the chief's ears affected?
He never listens to anyone anyway.
That's beside the point. This is the real deal, isn't it? This armor and these weapons?
Sure is, pal. The chief doesn't care for imitations.
First the pipe organ, now this armor. Do you know how many taxpayer dollars must have gone into this room? What? You mean we're paying for this? That's it. I'm not paying 1 cent of my taxes. You don't have any taxes to pay.
Shh! Be careful of what you say. Who knows? The chief may be hiding in this armor as we speak.
I don't think he'd fit in there. Even if he did, he'd never be able to get back out.
Cut it out. You guys don't know how scary that guy can be.
Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk. Speaking of that, when we were here earlier... Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading in his desk. I wonder what he was reading.
This looks like a list of evidence.
A list of evidence?
In most cases, the list runs twice as long as this, though.
Gumshoe, you might want to work on those intrusive thoughts. Hey, look at the case name.
SL9 incident. I wonder what this is doing in here.
Hold on, Detective. What did you just say?
I said, I wonder what...
No, about the evidence lists. They're normally twice as long.
That's right. I guess there wasn't a lot of evidence.
Half-sized list of evidence. The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. What would the other half of the list be doing here? I knew it! The chief must be hiding something about that case. It would appear so. Evidence list added to the court record. Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk. We found this inside the drawer. A list of evidence from the SL9 incident. Mr. Edgeworth had the other half of that list. What would this list be doing here? We'd better look a little more into this list. This is a safe, isn't it?
Safe. That word is ripe with intrigue.
Okay, if you say so.
It looks like a code needs to be entered in this panel to open it.
7-digit number. I think I just might know what it is.
Do you know what it is?
I have a hunch.
Oh, I know. You want to try my birthday?
I have a better idea. Here goes nothing.
Huh?
Bingo.
What number did you enter?
Whose birthday was that, pal?
7777777. The final ID card number on that record.
What?
The number of the mysterious executive officer who entered the room that day.
You mean 777777? That ID number?
I think you're 1 7 shy this time. This can only mean one thing. That's Chief Gant's ID number.
Say, anyone care to look inside?
Is there any money in there? How much does he have stashed away?
Look, it's a
shard from a broken cup.
This somehow looks familiar. Where have I seen this before?
There's something else here too.
What's this? It looks like a piece of leather cloth.
This is a handprint, isn't it?
Hey, I saw someone wearing a shirt like that once. You think the chief made up the design?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, it was just a thought.
Is that it? This is all that was in the safe?
Apparently so. It's empty now.
A piece of cloth with a handprint on it, and a broken shard from a cup.
They look like pieces of evidence.
Yeah, but unless you can prove that they have something to do with the case, I'm afraid I just can't let you take them. After all, it's mind act on the line here.
Great, now I have to prove their relevancy to get at them. How are these two items related to the SL9 incident?
Come on, there's gotta be something we can show the detective.
This is, I wonder what this is. It looks like someone drew some kind of sketch here.
What is it? Did you find something?
I can't make it out. I'd better keep quiet about it for now.
Huh?
Huh? Oh, no, it's nothing.
Why are your eyes moving about like that, Why are your eyes moving about like that, Mr. Wright?
I better not forget this picture. Well, I think it's...
That's what the chief was reading before, isn't it? You know when we first came in here?
Yeah, it looks like the right side of the form's been torn off.
So Mr. Edgeworth's list really was only half of the whole thing.
Something else is bugging me more than that. Take a look at the back of that form, pal.
Back? Detective Gumshoe, could you have another look at this jar?
I remember when the three of us put that back together. Those were the days.
It's kind of early to be nostalgic. Wasn't this this jar a piece of evidence from that case?
That's right. One of the shards had an SL9 incident sticker on it.
Doesn't this ring any bells? You know, that fragment we just found?
You mean this one? That was in the safe?
Yes, that's the one. Yes, that one. That was in the safe.
Now that you mention it, it's ringing a lot of bells. Let's see if it fits.
Assemble the fragments. Here, let me see that shard. I'll take a crack at this.
Go ahead, pal. Show us what a rookie can do.
Mr. Wright, here's some glue. If I can piece this together again, it'll prove Chief Gant was knowingly hiding evidence. Here goes. There, it fits like a charm. That, of course, means Chief Gant willingly and knowingly hid a piece of this jar in his safe. In other words, he concealed a piece of evidence from the SL9 incident. But,
hey, guys, get a load of this.
what is it?
This piece you just attached. It's different from the others.
There's a reddish line on it. A reddish line. That's blood.
I don't get it. Why would Chief Gant hide this in his safe?
Unstable jar updated in the court record. Hey, look here. It's hard to make out. There's a dark red stain here. Looks like blood. This piece, the chief has is different, though. The blood stain on the other pieces are just spots. But this one's a line. That is odd. That desk on the other side of the room. Was that your sister's? Yes, that's where I was waiting for Lana. On that day 2 years ago. Is anyone using it now?
No, sir. This is entirely Chief Gant's office now. He practices a strict policy of preserving the crime scene.
It's a strange reason to leave it here.
He leaves it as a warning to everyone else. He wants us to always be alert. He told us himself at our New Year's party. Of course, he was pretty intoxicated at the time.
I see. So ever since Lana left, no one ever touches that desk?
No one except Chief Gant and the cleaning lady who's here each morning.
Still, 2 years have passed since that incident. There can't possibly be any clues remaining.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
You only came here to look around, right? Because it's one of the SL9 crime scenes? I mean, that's your only reason for coming here, isn't it?
Why do you ask?
You don't think... Nah, you wouldn't be. No.
Yes, Loki.
There's no way. Oh, there's no way. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Now then, let's look around a bit more.
Hey, hold on. Not so fast, buddy.
Huh? What is it?
When someone tells you don't worry about it, it's supposed to start bothering you, pal. You don't just let it go at that.
Sorry. This guy's starting to get on my nerves. Okay, so what's bothering you?
You two don't think Chief Gant might be a suspect, do you?
What? He's right, Mr. Wright. What do we think of him? Chief Gant. So it's finally come to this. What do I think of him? Perhaps it's best I don't divulge my feelings. Yeah.
There you go, ignoring me again. I feel a lot better now that this jar is complete.
But it only raises another question. What was a piece of it doing in the chief's safe?
More importantly, why wasn't there any money in there? Isn't that what safes are for anyway?
I have a feeling the outcome of tomorrow's trial might just hinge on this.
Who am I fooling? I never had any useful information to share with, to begin with.
Got to stay positive. Add 3 inches to your base height. Base height? Let me see that. Looming tall, new and improved growth formula.
You mean this can't detect any blood traces?
Well, it's not quite the same thing as luminol.
So that's why the lady at the counter had a smirk on her face.
What do I do here? This area must have been covered in blood. Is this from that incident? It must be, when Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered. 2 years have passed, so the reaction's kind of dull. So murder really did take place here. Detective Gumshoe, I'd like you to have a look at this.
Hey, I know what that is. So you want to take some fingerprints?
That's a great idea, Detective.
Alright, go to town, sheesh.
What are you doing? Why are you sticking out your hand like that?
Go ahead, take my fingerprints.
It's not your fingerprints we want to take.
Huh?
Come to think of it, this isn't the time for jokes. We're talking about that cloth we found in the safe.
Oh, I knew that. The one with the handprint on it, right? Sheesh, where's your sense of humor?
Sprinkle the powder on the cloth. Let's go for that one. That one looks nice and clear. Rapid fire dusting. No. How can this be? How are Emma's fingerprints? What are Emma's fingerprints doing here? Hey, you found a match? Whose fingerprints were they? Huh? Oh, it seems the prints are too old. They aren't clear enough to get a match. Oh, that's too bad. I thought they'd be Dark's prints. Psst. Hey, you, over here.
What's going on here? What are those kids' prints doing inside the chief's safe?
Don't ask me. Let's just keep this information from Emma for now.
Here, maybe you should hold on to this. Well, was I any help?
Of course. Thanks to your ID card, we were able to get some hard evidence. Now that's not very kind, is it? I'm assuming it's Gant. In other words, if it wasn't for his ID card, he would have been useless. Isn't that right, you in the coat?
Eek! Chief Gant!
We didn't think you'd be back so soon. Fortunately, I'm a man who believes in signs. As I was walking to my meeting, I happened to look out a window and saw a stray dog run into a pole. Then I thought of a certain detective.
You mean me, sir?
Now then, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you all to leave.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Oh, you in the coat.
Me, sir?
Drop off your ID on the way out. You won't be needing it anymore.
But sir,
Now get out.
yeah, yes sir.
Poor gumshoe. We'll be on our way too then. Wait, you, the one without the spiky hair. Don't go yet. Me, sir? I'd like a word with you.
But sir, I'm not a licensed scientific investigator yet.
You, with the spiky hair. You're free to go.
Mr. Wright?
Scott! How's it going, buddy? What's that face? How's your day been? You feeling better? Speaking of... I want some more chips. That can wait 50 minutes. Just resting? Okay. You're hoping you could go to work, but you took a test and you're still positive? Ooh. That's rough, man. You know, I forgot that that was a thing to do today. I got it. I could modify it in the video settings for the what would be a good title for what's been going on today? Forgeries. Intrigue. go. There we go. I think the command is and then you can change the game, and then you can also do title. Yeah, so you can do exclamation mark game space and then the game name, and Nightbot will change it for you. And then if you do exclamation mark title space and then change the title, you can have that too. Look, pal, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. The chief's office is off limits. But no, you had to go sneaking in there like that, didn't you? I thought you said you didn't care if you were anymore if you were fired. Yeah, but if I knew it'd be like this, I never would have said it. Now that I've seen the evidence Chief Gant was hiding in this office, I think I'm finally starting to get the picture. But why has she kept eerily silent about it all this time? Anyway, you listening to me? I'm gonna try to smooth things over with the Chief again. Later, pal. After that, I heard from Emma. She said the police wanted to ask her some questions, so she'll be busy for the rest of the day. Yeah, next time. See, so the chief asked Emma to come in for questioning. It's no use thinking about it. Tomorrow's the final day in court. I committed to doing everything I can to defend you, which is why I'm here. But I've already told you all I can. What you've told me over these past couple of days is absolutely nothing. Not a single useful thing. Really? I believe I did mention something quite important. Something I told you right at the beginning. I said that I was the one who stabbed Detective Goodman. You know, I think I finally figured it out. I know what it is that's lurking behind your words. Mia did a good job mentoring you. I'm rather jealous. It seems Edgeworth was right. Edgeworth? Once you're convinced you know something, no one can persuade you otherwise. Thick-headed is the term he used, I believe. Now's my chance to get her to tell me the rest of the story. I have to admit, I was more than a little perplexed at first. You insisted you did it, yet there was no incriminating evidence. That's when it hit me. It's not that you're unwilling to tell the truth. It's that you're incapable of doing so because of a certain individual. What an intriguing notion. A certain individual, you say? So you think I'm protecting this person? Protecting? No. I think afraid of is more like it. If I'm not mistaken, the person in question may have persuaded you to silence. For argument's sake, Mr. Wright, who, may I ask, is this person you're speaking of? One I'm supposedly so frightened of? What is this person's name? Well, Miss Gay? Mr. Wright, you are addressing the chief prosecutor. Do not forget your place. I take it she's still not ready to spill the beans. My apologies. Could you please tell me a bit more about what you think you know? We were partners until 2 years ago. I respected him as a detective. Assuming he is respectable, then tell me something. Why would he try to hide his crimes? His crimes? Both you and Edgeworth will be brought before a board of inquiry for what you did, specifically hiding and forging evidence. Of course, these are serious offenses. Why is it, though, that Chief Gant's name was never mentioned? Chief Gant? Edgeworth didn't know the truth behind the forgery. The only party who could have possibly tampered with the evidence was... Oh, Edgeworth didn't know about the forgery. The only person who could have known the truth was me. I had access because I was second in command of that investigation. Yes, you, but also one other, Damon Gant. If you intend to accuse Chief Gant, you'll need more than just words. Show me proof that Chief Gant falsified evidence in that case. I just found this in a safe in Chief's office. This jar piece, and this piece of cloth. Do you know what these are? They're pieces of evidence from the SL9 incident. The person concealing evidence was none other than Chief Gant himself. Now tell me, why are you taking all the blame for him? Touché, Mr. Wright. It's as you surmised. I can't disobey Chief's orders, even if it means being found guilty for murder. Why not? Come now, Mr. Wright. You can't possibly expect me to be able to tell you that. 3 days ago, I had no choice but to cooperate in the murder of Detective Goodman. Or perhaps I should say, follow orders. Yes, that's more accurate than cooperate. Although I can't tell you the details, I can say that I was given an order that day. I need you to dispose of Bruce Goodman's body. You'll find it inside the trunk of Miles Edgeworth's car. Just as I suspected. Despite what everyone believes, you were not the one who murdered Detective Goodman. Correct. I was trying to take the body out of Edgeworth's car. The trunk's lock was broken, and I discovered that that murder weapon while inspecting the body. A murder weapon? You mean Edgeworth's knife? No. When I found the body, it was a knife. This was the knife stuck in it. The knife from the SL9 incident. Serial killer Joe Dark's knife. I couldn't just leave that knife in him. So I took it out and stabbed him with another knife. That would be Edgeworth's knife. That's right. Even though he was already dead, my hands were shaking at the thought of stabbing him. That's why I ended up cutting my hand. And that is the reason for the bandage on your right hand? Yes. It seems I got blood on the victim's shoes as well. And then she saw me just as I plunged the knife in. Miss Starr, huh? Why did you need to hide Dark's knife so badly? It took a lot of work to finally close the Dark case 2 years ago. It was over with. I didn't ever want it to be opened again. My intent was to prevent that by whatever means possible. So you hid Dark's knife. The weapon used to stab the detective was evidence in the Joe Dark case. If word got out, which it would, the reporters would have a field day with that. So you wrapped the knife in your scarf and hid it. Edgeworth's exhaust pipe. Right, then I called my sister to tell her what had happened. What happened, and to ask her to hide the knife that was inside my muffler. You asked Emma? I didn't want anyone on the force to know about this. That would explain why Emma was is so confident about Lana's innocence. Speaking of phone calls, I had a bad feeling about one of them that day. A bad feeling? The truth is, after I received those orders from Chief Gant, the first thing I did was make a phone call. A phone call to Patrolman Jake Marshall. Marshall? Why on earth would you call him? The lead investigator for SL9 incident had been murdered. I wanted that fact to be kept hidden, and I needed help. He was the only other person I could trust. Or at least, I thought I could trust him at the time. However, it seems that after I spoke to him, he went off on an escapade of his own. Oh, you mean, not wanting the case to die, he decided to take things into his own hands. He disguised himself as Detective Goodman and tried to steal the evidence. He had already stolen the ID card, but it seems he still hadn't made up his mind to break into the evidence room. After my phone call, any remaining doubts he had must have disappeared. So your phone call caused the incident in the evidence room? Jeez. Oh, that felt good. I'm afraid that's all I can tell you. But, Lana, you've earned my respect, Mr. Wright, both as a defense attorney and an investigator. Now, please, don't pursue this any further in court tomorrow. Tomorrow's trial. There's only one way to drive off Lana's demons. Got to get to the bottom of everything. Detective Goodman's real murderer. And what went down in the chief's office 2 years ago? Ugh. Alright, going into the last day of court. But I still only have 30 minutes left in the night, and I can't really do more because I have to go to work tomorrow. February 25th, 9:47 a.m., District Court, Defendant Lobby number 2. This is the defendant lobby, all right, but there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? Where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Edgeworth. Knowing you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7777777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, right? And Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it. I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth. Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, right? This is it. If I'm ever going to find what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution posts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant. Morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, Oji. Been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Oh, that's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, what exactly is this proposal of yours? Lana, that is to say the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. What's this all about, defendant? I'd like to make just one simple request, and I'll be finished. What? Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No, Lana. You can't. Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana, Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. Her request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening. It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Come on, Edgeworth. Thank you. One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth? The prosecution has not proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut, I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh, to whom? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. Gant's date. There, I said it. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of the truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. Very well. The court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark, one of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry. but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember the trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant? Yes, it most certainly is. Well, okay then. He sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. My foot hurts. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me. But I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. It's a good thing you weren't harmed. I passed out. I don't remember much. You got knocked the fuck out. That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. Two years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct? Yes, she was second in command under the deputy chief of police camp. My sister, she was the best detective ever. Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair. I believe they shared the same office. That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk. Somebody wants me to suffer. Yep, we're at 1,000. Those guys. And dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day too. The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. A man? Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of the ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right? Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Sky and Gant's office. I have to make sure I read that correctly. So yeah, now I gotta play Dark Souls 2. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. And that's when I saw him. What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning. Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. I almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony. I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark. When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was good as dead. And that was when Prosecutor Marshall came running in. I don't clearly remember what happened then, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Then the lights went out. The lights? It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby. So the electricity went out. Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right? Right, but just then, lightning flashed outside again. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind. I see. I told the detective about what I saw then. The detective? Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case. Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago? Yes, that's what was so scary about this trial. And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw? Yes, but at the time the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture? Yes, I think she mentioned that before. Ask about the picture. This picture the witness drew. I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth, this little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you would insist on denying its existence? Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. After all I'm saying is that the prosecutor for that case, as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold! This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident. Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over. Turn it. Ah, what's this? Yes. What is that? Hey, that's it. That's the picture I drew. Imagine that, edgy. Huh, evidence is missing. My list didn't have this thing. Indeed. 2 men appear to be wrestling here. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list. Huh? These lists, they're different from each other. What? It would appear that Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here, where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half the evidence only half the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? What? Order, order. But Miss Sky, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list? Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor. Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor. Are you all right, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head. If the evidence list was torn in half, there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list. Yes, that's quite conceivable. Mr. Edgeworth. It's possible. Let's see. Is something wrong? Do you even have to ask? Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. It's that thing. That's that thing. That thing that was dancing in the evidence room.
Just came screaming.
Legendary
in
anime
literally.
JP fan 2. Thank you for following. How you doing? Hello, is Ace Attorney your first visual novel game? No, and this is also not my first playthrough. I played through the trilogy like 3-4 years ago, something like that. It was like just before the pandemic, I think. Or as Jake Marshall would put it, not his first rodeo. Not for me. You've played over. Jeez. I mean, they are interesting games, just not typically my style. The story has to be something that grabs me from previewing, basically. Clearly, this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper. Evidence list restored and updated to the court record. Very well. Witness. Will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago? Huh? Oh, yes, sir. Your Honor? What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking at the picture. She drew... She drew the blue badger. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind. Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Play all types of visual novel games like Ace Attorney, Doki Doki Detective. Conan, Umineko, Kindachi, Steingate, Danganronpa, and School Rumble. Have you played the Somnium Files? Because if you have, here's a streamer you're going to want to check out who's currently playing through. And I think plans to play the new one. There we go.
Listen. It's called uninstalling and reinstalling for a better phrase, if any.
Third eye can see through your bullshit.
Listen.
The clip generator or the clip pulling bot or function seems to like pulling clips that I was involved in. Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder the prosecutor, Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Might be able to get through this cross-examination, then I'll have to call it a night. Did you draw this picture right after the incident? I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first, I was in such a state of shock I couldn't do anything. During that time, the investigation team was reorganized. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Sky. 2 or 3 days later, the memory should still have been fresh in her mind. Excuse me, witness? But can you please tell us why this picture is painted all black? So at the time, you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue? No, I couldn't see him clearly. Lightning was so bright, and I was knocked to the floor. You were knocked to the floor? Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. I turned around. And that's when the lightning flashed. Poor Emma. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. What happened after the lightning flashed? You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place? No, I'm sorry. The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? What? Hey, I'm not the one, I'm not the bad guy here. Anyway, this picture. Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw? Of course, this is the exact scene. It wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives? Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not. I better watch, or he might find some way to cut my salary. I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I didn't think anyone's story would have influenced me. Mr. Wright? Is there something that's bothering you about this picture? Huh? Oh, well... That's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted on her mind, and yet there's clearly a contradiction here. I believe it's the fact that he was stabbed in the back. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. Huh? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report? I think it's, this part here? Track 6. Oh no. Whoops. Okay, so the contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright. But, Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See? The murder weapon, its tip is broken too. If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body. It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. Ah, what's the meaning of this, then? Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right, but what does this all mean? The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at that time. But she said she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, right? All I'm saying is that the broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No? Ah! Poor Edgeworth. Order, order, order. Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Drake along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being 2 broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one? Here's another one. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by simple observational error. Mr. Wright. In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. If anything's broken here, it's you, huh? I'm sure this must all be very amusing to you, Miss Wright. But may I remind you that the fate of Lana Skye hangs in the balance? Sorry, Your Honor. Please give me another chance. The murder weapon was already broken. The answer lies in the past, 2 years in the past. Right here inside this picture. This is a picture of the awards ceremony. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Good job, Felix. Order, order, order. Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out his knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. No. And why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was the murder weapon, then the murder victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Wait, I remember now. I remember everything. Witness? Mr. Edgeworth, what is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please? His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back? I knew it! This picture, I'm the one who drew it. What? You drew that? That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part deep inside me. That's why she didn't trust the blue badger, that's right. Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've just recalled, Miss Skye? Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up, and now the blue badger? This should be interesting. Emma's recollection. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed over toward both of them. I think I I knocked away the man with a knife. Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. This is most unusual. Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense... Stop, please. Don't pursue this any further. Lana. What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair. You can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Sky. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Silence. The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. Seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. And we will get to the core of the matter next time. Friday. Yeah. I thought we were going to finish it tonight, but it was just a tiny bit longer than I remember. We should definitely be able to finish it in the 5 hours on Friday, though. And then move on to the second game. Okay, so we hit 1,000 tonight, guys. What we gonna do now? We are going to raid someone. I have to go to work tomorrow, so can't really do much else. Yeah. Let's see. Show more. I'm trying to raid people that I don't typically raid. We could raid Hazardous. We haven't raided Hazardous in a long time. Or ever, maybe. It's been a while since I've been over in his stream. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like he is streaming a racing game. F1 2021. I don't know how long he's going to be on for. He's already been at it for 5 hours. I figure raid him, and if he raids, we just ride that raid. Sound good? So, for now... That's not what I want. There we go. Here are our raid commands. Or raid messages. I'll be working on those, I think, through the week. Yeah. Come on, there it is. All right, I'll be streaming again Friday. Might do a bonus stream. There's some weird stuff going on this week at work that I might have an extra day off. We'll see. But I'll probably do something else that day just to save my voice a bit, because it's been getting a little brutal playing this game. So yeah. We hit 1,000, guys. This has been a crazy month. Really worth doing what we've done, though. And I hope you guys enjoy seeing me suffer through Dark Souls 2 in the near future. I'm gonna probably play through it after I have a chance to mentally recover from getting over it, because that game is also supposed to be insanely hard and frustrating. But well, we still have 2 more days in the campaign, and a few of the streamers who are supporting us. We've got Whitey, we've got John, and we've got Saito. I think at least one of them is going to be streaming between now and the end of the month. So, if you want to support the campaign any further while someone's streaming, go ahead and check them out. Yeah. So I will see you all in the next stream. Have a good night. Remember, be excellent to each other.